He called me sweetheart in front of 40 officers. The room laughed, thinking I was some silent ornament, a woman who belonged only to the edges of conversation. I smiled just once, not out of amusement but recognition. The voice belonged to the brother of the soldier who had died calling my name. When the admiral finally asked for my call sign, I didn't hesitate. Reaper Zero, I said. The instant the words left my mouth, the room fell into a hush so complete it felt like the storm I had once flown through had returned, collecting its debt. My name is Horrit Vaughn, and in that moment, the past stopped whispering. Winter in Anchorage carried a silence that weighed down the sky, pressing against the frozen airfield beyond my window. Each morning, I wiped frost off the helmet on the table, a ritual meant to hold back the tide of memories. But silence never promised peace. In war, it only meant someone wouldn't come home. When missions ended, the quiet arrived like a predator. My husband left before the thaw, his boots leaving perfect tracks in the snow. He said he couldn't live competing with the sky, and he was right. I loved the air more than I loved him. Divorce papers sat frozen on the kitchen table, while my mother's letters arrived punctually, one every month. The last one read, "You fly well, but you've forgotten how to land in people's hearts." I folded it and tucked it beside my father's silver ring, the same ring that once smelled of oil and jet fuel as he taught me that precision was respect. One night, wind rattling against the glass, a ping blinked from my computer. A message from the Pentagon. Special Operations Joint Training Program, San Diego Naval Base. I stared at it, torn. I had promised never to return, but the silence was killing me faster than any storm ever had. I packed light, the ring slipping into my flight jacket pocket. Scanning the command roster froze me. Admiral Kalen Hayes. That name was familiar. Seen before in the report of a mission that had ended with his brother's death. Outside, the wind tore through the hangar, cold enough to slice steel. Time is supposed to heal, they say, but in Alaska, nothing thaws. Not even me. I was 33 the night the Bering storm swallowed the world. Radar blacked out. Winds topped 120 miles per hour. The command tower's voice crackled over the static, abort. Wait for clearer skies. I didn't. I throttled forward. Only Lieutenant Alvarez dared to ride beside me. Manuals called flights like this suicidal, but manuals had never met me. We skated over the ice, skids nearly kissing the frozen earth, steering by the reflection of the moon because the moon never lied. Tracer fire ripped the darkness apart. One round tore through Alvarez's seat, another shredded hydraulics. I locked the stick between my knees, bracing every muscle, feet planted hard against the pedals. 2 minutes later, I saw motion, men waving from an icy crater. SEALs, the team we had risked everything to save. I dropped the helicopter without instruments, without GPS. The rotors cut through the storm. When the hatch opened, wind tore through the cabin, and a man staggered forward, bloodied and frozen. "You came," he rasped. "Always," I said. His name was Lieutenant Michael Hayes. We brought them all home. On the way back, an engine exploded. We landed on one. The base lights mere meters away, the smell of fuel thick in the air. I thought that was the end. 3 months later, word came. Michael Hayes was dead. Another crash. Another storm. Under his brother's command. My mission listed under a code name, Operation Bering Ridge. Pilot, Reaper Zero. When I asked why that name, my superior said simply, "Because you flew through hell and came back with the dead. You carried it ever since. The survivor and the guilty." Every time someone whispered Reaper Zero, something inside me flinched. Survival had a price. I had learned a lot, though it didn't always feel like a victory. San Diego was a world apart from Alaska. The sunlight fractured across the water like shattered glass, and the air was thick with salt and certainty. On the wall of the SEAL base hung a slogan, "Only the brave return." I smiled, part amusement, part pain. I had returned, but courage had little to do with it. Admiral Kalen Hayes entered the briefing room, radiating authority that bent the air around him. When he spoke, everyone at the table stopped mid-breath. "This is Lieutenant Commander Vaughn," he said succinctly. "She'll advise on aviation support." Then he turned, as if my presence was already forgotten. During the first joint session, he smirked in my direction. Maybe our lady pilot can handle the turbulence segment, he joked. She probably knows it better than we do. Laughter rippled through the room. I made a note in my notebook, don't react. Wait for the moment. Later, outside the hangar, a young officer approached cautiously. They don't mean any harm, ma'am, she said softly. It's just the way things are. Lieutenant Lexi Moore. All nerves, I'll promise. I looked at her. That's exactly how harm begins, I told her. She looked down, ashamed. In her silence, I saw my younger self. That evening, while reviewing training files, my eyes froze. A line of code, Falcon Unit 6. The same SEAL team I had pulled from the ice. The next day, in the officers' lounge, Kalen Hayes told a story like it was a punchline. Once a pilot screwed up so badly in bearing, the SEALs had to dig themselves out, he said. The room erupted in laughter. I turned before anyone could see my face. He had no idea the pilot he mocked was standing 10 feet away. Not yet. At dusk, I watched waves batter the hulls from the pier. The air was warmer here, but the sting of the past cut deeper. Some storms hit your plane. Some hit your name. Monday, 0800 hours. The briefing room gleamed with steel, glass, and overconfidence. I stood before 42 officers, file in hand, explaining flight coordination when Admiral Kalen Hayes interrupted. Before we go any further, he said, smiling condescendingly, what's your call sign, sweetheart? Laughter cracked through the room like gunfire. I met their eyes without flinching. Reaper 0. The room froze. The projector clicked off. A cup hit the floor. Silence swallowed the laughter. Kalen's face drained of color. You wanted the call sign, Admiral? I asked calmly. You just got it. Commander Vic broke the silence. Sir, she's the pilot from Bering Ridge. I added evenly. That qualifies me to discuss turbulence. The meeting ended in a suffocating quiet. By noon, whispers had spread through the base. She's Reaper. She saved a SEAL team. And he mocked her. That afternoon, Ken's aide delivered a note. Report to the Admiral. E0900 tomorrow. Lexi Moore ran up as I left. Ma'am, I checked the Bering Ridge file. It's under his name. He lost his brother that week. He didn't hate Reaper for being deadly. He hated the name for reminding him who survived. His office smelled of salt and varnish. Quite the show yesterday, he said. It wasn't a show. It was an answer. He leaned back. My brother died because the pilot didn't have your luck. I met his gaze and stopped punishing the next one for surviving. That afternoon, I combed through accident reports. His signature appeared repeatedly. Pilot requested abort. Denied. My stomach sank. His brother's death had been his own doing. Alvarez called from Alaska. Michael Hayes said your name before he blacked out. You were his last words. That night, Lexi found me. People are divided, ma'am. Some respect you. Some don't. Good. Let them talk. Are you angry? Anger needs fuel. I'm running on something colder. Before leaving, she whispered, rumor says he tried to bury your file. He can't hide a storm. I said it already hit. Hours later, a message blinked across my screen. You shouldn't have said Reaper 0. Some ghosts don't like being called. The moon caught my reflection. The storm hadn't ended. It had just changed shape. The base slept beneath a thin veil of fog. Lights flickered across the wet concrete. Alone in the records room, surrounded by metal cabinets and the low hum of security vents, I opened file 204, Mission Kachmak Gulf. Commander Admiral Kalen Hayes. My breath caught. It was the operation that killed Michael Hayes, the same man I'd pulled from the ice months before. The printed report read, weather warnings acknowledged. Everything had continued as planned. Yet, in the original log attached below, a faint indentation betrayed a deleted line. The pilot had requested an abort. The commander had overruled him. The air seemed thinner suddenly, heavier somehow. His brother hadn't died because of a storm. He had died because of a decision Callan never dared to make. Every insult, every wall of arrogance, every unspoken punishment clicked into place. Callan had been punishing every pilot since, not out of duty, but because he couldn't punish himself. The door creaked behind me. I turned. Ma'am. Lexi Moore stood there, eyes wide. What are you doing here? I asked. Looking for the truth, she said. If they find you, they'll end you. Then let them, I replied. She hesitated, then lifted her phone and snapped a photo of the page. If you fall, I'll make sure this doesn't disappear. By morning, base security summoned me. A cold-eyed officer leaned across the desk. You access restricted data without clearance. I accessed my own history, I said. His smirk didn't reach his eyes. Then you know it never belonged to you. It hit me then. This wasn't just Callan's sin. It was a system designed to bury ghosts. That night, my phone rang. Stop digging, Henriette. Callan's voice rasped through the static. Some storms are meant to be cleared, I said, and some men aren't meant to stay gods. He hung up. I slid my father's ring back onto my finger, the small metal circle cold against my skin. Precision is respect, he had said. Tonight, precision meant naming the truth. When I returned to my office past midnight, the drawer was empty. File 204 had vanished. Only a single note lay on my desk. You shouldn't have come this far, Reaper. For the first time since the Bering storm, the chill I felt wasn't from the weather. It was from the truth itself. 2 days later, I sat in the holding room, temporarily suspended for cooperation. The air smelled of paper and metal. The door opened and Ken stepped in. The light made him appear older, smaller somehow. You found the file, he said quietly, and you deleted it. I protected what's left of this unit. No, I said. You protected your pride. He met my gaze. Do you think you're the only one who hears ghosts at night? No, I answered. But I'm the only one who answers them. He exhaled, then placed a small USB on the table. Play this before you destroy me. Static hissed through the speakers. Then Michael's voice, faint, trembling, request abort. Ken's voice overrode it. Negative. Continue as planned. Silence. Then a whisper barely audible. Tell my brother the pilot did everything right. Tears blurred the screen. Ken had kept that recording for 7 years, not to hide guilt, but because he couldn't bear the mercy in his brother's final words. Later, Alvarez called. You found it, didn't you? No, I said. I found forgiveness. What I had uncovered wasn't Ken's crime. It was his wound. When I wrote my final report, the cursor blinked on the recommendation section. I could demand punishment or offer a lesson. My father's words echoed in my mind. Flying isn't about avoiding storms. It's about staying level until they pass. I typed, recommend reassignment to leadership ethics instruction. Minutes later, an email from command flashed back. Reaper 0, report to Washington. Your presence is required at the hearing. I read the name slowly, Reaper 0. For the first time, it didn't sting. It didn't mean death. It meant survival. Outside, helicopters thundered across the San Diego sky, their shadows sweeping the runway like ghosts finally given direction. Lexi joined me on the tarmac. So what happens now? I watched the horizon burn gold. Now, I said, fastening my flight helmet, we fly into a different kind of storm. The sunset glinted off my visor, pale blue like the ice of Bering Ridge, where it all began. The morning air in Washington had a sharp bite, the kind that stung your lungs. Inside the Joint Naval Command hearing room, cold fluorescent lights struck the long wooden table, turning every face pale and precise. I sat in the witness chair. The nameplate read, Reaper 0. Across from me, Admiral Callan Hayes sat still, hollow-eyed. Silence weighed heavier than judgment itself. Please state your findings, Commander Vaughn said. I opened my report. My voice held steady. Each page turned like a slow-drawn blade. Radar data had been altered. Safety warnings ignored. The pilot had requested an abort. The order was denied. No one moved. I closed the folder. 2 men had died. One because of the storm, the other because of command pride. Both deserved to be remembered honestly. A chair scraped. Callan arrived unannounced. She's right, he admitted, voice low but unwavering. The room fell silent. I overruled that abort call. My brother was on that flight. Ever since, I've been punishing the sky for my own failures. His words cracked slightly, and I felt it too. I met his gaze. Leadership without accountability destroys trust faster than any storm, I said. A tense hush lingered, and I continued. I don't suggest punishment. I suggest reassignment. Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. He doesn't need reprimand. He needs to teach what failure truly costs, so no one repeats it. 20 minutes later, the verdict was in. Ken was demoted. I was appointed head of Joint Special Operations Flight Training. There was no applause, only the weight of quiet respect. Outside the room, he waited by the corridor. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, I said. Someone had to teach the storm how to end. He nodded once. Two soldiers, once divided by grief and ghosts, went their separate ways, each carrying the lessons of the past. A year later, the air at Coronado SEAL Training Base shimmered with sunlight and salt. The grandstand was packed for the first graduation under the new program. Leadership under fire. I sat toward the back, no uniform this time, just a dark navy blazer and the calm of someone who had already survived their last battle. On stage, Kalen Hayes stepped up. His hair was streaked with gray, his voice quieter, yet stronger than before. When I was your age, he began, I thought command meant shouting the loudest. Then I met someone who led in silence. She didn't need to yell to be heard. His gaze swept the audience before settling on me. Her name is Harriet Vaughn. You know her as Reaper Zero. But what she really reaped was understanding. Applause started slow, then swelled into a standing ovation. For the first time, it wasn't hollow, it wasn't for a legend. It was for the lesson. After the ceremony, he handed me a sealed envelope. Inside, a worn letter, soft from years of handling. To whoever saved me that night, if I died tomorrow, tell my brother I saw heaven once. It was made of ice and rotor. Signed, Michael Hayes. Tears blurred the ink. I looked up. He forgave you first, Kalen said gently. You just needed to hear it. And you? I asked. I stopped being angry the day I understood why you were. We didn't shake hands. Forgiveness hung between us, weightless, invisible, like the air that lifts a helicopter. As I walked off the field, Lexi Moore jogged up, her grin bright as sunlight. Ma'am, I got promoted. They said your report changed how command trains. Good, I said, smiling. Now teach them to listen before they lead. Overhead, a squadron of helicopters sliced through the sky, sunlight catching on their rotors in ribbons of gold. 3 years later, Washington glimmered beneath a soft, golden sky. The marble monuments reflected light like memory, steady, polished, unyielding. I had been retired for some time when an invitation arrived. The Smithsonian Air and Space Museum wanted to honor silent heroes of the skies. Inside the hall, my helicopter, Reaper Zero, hung restored, gleaming beneath the glass dome. Its rotors stretched like frozen wings, catching the golden light. Below, engraved in brass, Reaper Zero, unknown hero of Bering Ridge. A soft voice drew me out of reverie. Miss Vaughn. A young woman held a leather-bound journal. I'm Emily Hayes. My father asked me to give you this. The journal felt warm in my hands. On the last page, written in Ken's uneven hand, she taught me to land with grace. Tell her the storm finally cleared. I smiled. The kind that comes only when grief softens, I whispered. Emily added, hesitantly, he requested the next helicopter model be named after your call sign. The Navy approved it. RZ-01. Through the glass ceiling, a new helicopter swept across the sky, sunlight streaming over its frame. I thought of those we lost, and those who still carried their names into the clouds. They called me Reaper Zero, I murmured. But all I ever wanted was to bring people home, even the ones who never expected me to make it back. Above me, Reaper Zero caught the dying light. No longer gray, but the color of peace.